حي على الفلاح.
أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور rather. Doesn't he know? Does he then not know what's going to happen when whatever is in the graves is going to be topsy-turvy, it's going to be yanked out, it's going to be pulled out? Allah just left it there. The only thing in addition He told us about that day is وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. That's the only thing we learned in that surah in addition. Okay. So we learned whatever the contents of the graves will be brought out, and whatever's in the chest will be exposed. That the two things. Now, what's going to happen after they come out of the grave? What's going to happen after what they have in their chest will be exposed? What's the next scene in this series of events? That's what's going to happen in this surah. We're going to find the scales are going to be brought forward. Somebody's scales will be heavy, somebody's scales will be light. That's the next logical progression. So there's this, the question marks that are left at the end of the last surah are now being addressed in this surah. It's almost a completion of the subject. Then we find in Surah Al-Zilzal, Allah Azza wa Jal had said, يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسِ أَشْتَاتًا لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُم. People will be spread out on that day. They will be gone in every which direction, so they may be shown their deeds. But there's a discussion about people being spread out. Now that this discussion takes the next step, يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ, like spread out moths. Another image is added to that scene. First it was mentioned in brief. Okay, they're going to be ashtata, they're going to be dispersed. Okay. But then Allah adds a detailed image. And Quran, its details are captured in imagery. Allah paints a picture with words. And when you pay attention to that image, you'll understand more about what Allah Azza wa Jalla is depicting, the reality He's depicting. So there's that connection between these two surahs also. But then there's a very subtle connection between these two things, which is that there is a sequence of events as far as us and our deeds and our judgment is concerned. On the Day of Judgment, there's a sequence of events. The first event, as far as judgment is concerned, is we're going to be handed our book. In either the right hand or the left hand, you're going to be handed your book. Okay. The next progression of that is you're going to be shown what you did. You're going to be shown. And once you are shown, then it will be weighed. Then it's going to be weighed. And once it's weighed, then you will be judged. So there's this 4-step thing. First you're handed the book, then you're shown what the contents of the book are, what you've done, then it's going to be weighed and scaled and evaluated, and then finally, after the evaluation, your judgment. Surah Al-Zilzal dealt with one part of this event. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ, so they may be shown their deeds. So we're starting from the second point. Because the first part of it, where your books are handed to you, a few surahs ago has already occurred. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ. That was the first part. The second part was you're being shown what you did. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Okay. But that still doesn't say enough about evaluation. And we said when we were studying Surah Al-Zilzal, there's a difference between being shown your deeds and having them evaluated. Once they go for evaluation, something else is going to happen. And we'll study more of that today, inshallah ta'ala. Because just the deeds are on the outside, but Allah doesn't just judge the deed. What else does He judge? The intentions behind them. Right? Not just the deed, but the intentions behind them. So you may think you have a pretty good pile of good deeds, and then you take them before Allah and you found out they're worth nothing. First you're shown your deeds though, then they're evaluated. Once you take them for evaluation, they're worthless. Right? Now, so what we learn from that basically is you have your deeds and then you have your intentions. And where are the intentions? They're in the heart, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in Surah Al-Zilzal, He mentions the deeds. لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ. In Surah Al-Adiyat, what does He mention? وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. Now the deeds and the intentions come together. Now they are ready for evaluation. فَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ وَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. What's coming in the next surah, in this surah, Al-Qari'ah, is now they're ready for evaluation because it combines the deeds and the intentions. SubhanAllah, it's a beautiful progression between these three things. Okay, so that's another thing we learn in this phenomenal surah. We know that the Day of Judgment is full of many calamities. And by use of this word, what we're learning is there are going to be a lot of things striking against each other. Now we just made mention of a car accident or a train wreck or an explosion. One thing strikes against another thing. Imagine everything is striking against everything. The sun is striking against the moon. The oceans are being rattled. The earth is being rattled. The graves are being rattled. The stars are being rattled. Everything is in motion. Everything's colliding into everything else. This is al-qari'ah. This can only be described, one of its very peculiar and powerful descriptions is, it's just a day of great clash and striking against one another. Now, having said that, the day of judgment has been described in stages. And in one place in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal says, He talks about two times, the trumpet being blown, the horn being blown twice. Okay, once, and then a second time. And then in other places we will see soon in the Quran, this nufikha fi sur is mentioned a third time. Most ulama tend to agree that the blowing will actually occur 3 times. Based on the ayat of the Quran and the sequencing of them, this will occur 3 times. The first is this nafqat faz'a. In other words, when Allah Azza wa Jal commands the horn to be blown, there will be terror widespread on the earth. There will be absolute terror on the earth. And by this time all the believers' souls are gone. And when it's blown, then there's all this chaos and calamity, wild animals are being herded together, and all this stuff is happening. Then another time, and when this time it's blown, death. فَصَعِقَ. Everybody just collapses and falls apart. Everything dies immediately. Then we don't know how much time in between the two, but then there's a third, and when this one's blown, what happens? Everybody comes back to life. And most mufassirun comment that this qari'ah, this rattling noise that's being referred to here, which is another terminology for nafqatus sur, this is referring to the third, when we come out of our graves. That final one, that's what's being referred to. Why did they say it's the final one? Because in this surah, we get right to the judgment. And how can you get to the judgment unless it's the third one? Because the first one doesn't lead to judgment. The first one leads to the second to the third, and the third one to judgment. So because of that, most mufassirun comment that this is referring to that third one. By the way, other places, let's make quick reference, inshallah, at least. The blowing of the trumpet or the horn, where there's going to be absolute terror, is defined, for example, in the beginning of Surah Al-Hajj. Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nasu attaqu rabbakum inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim. Have fearful consciousness of your master. No doubt the earthquake of that day is a huge and enormous thing. يَوْمَ تَرَوْنَهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. The day on which you will see every breastfeeding mother, animal and human being, will drop whatever she used to feed. Allah didn't even say she'll drop her child, He'll say whatever, as though she doesn't even remember what that is. وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا. And every carrier, meaning every pregnant animal and human being, will drop whatever they were carrying. They'll just go into labor and deliver immediately out of shock. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى. And you will see people drunk. وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. And they're not drunk at all. You know when somebody's drunk, they're kind of like shaking around, moving around like this, they can't stand straight. The earth will be shaking so much that they can't stand straight, right? That's what you're going to see them. So this is the first one, where this terror is widespread on the earth. Then we find, in regards to as-sa'iq, we find وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهِ. And it will, the sur will be blown into, and everyone in the heavens and the earth will cease to live, except the one who Allah wills, meaning Israfil, according to most mufassirun, because he'll survive this one, and then Allah will give him death, and then bring him back to life. ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى. Then it will be blown again. فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. Then they will be standing, looking at each other. So that's the second and third one is what's being referred to here. The first one was fazr, the terror, and the second and third one have been combined in the other ayah. Okay. وقد أكد هذا التعظيم والتفخيم بقوله بعد وما أدراك ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة. And it said that Allah Azza wa Jalla repeated the word 3 times to let you know how heavy this calamity is. So the 3 times repetition makes it 3 times as heavy and emphatic. The ta'zim to make it grand, at-tafkhim to make it heavier and to make it scarier. And just like that, and additionally, when people come out of their graves, they will be overwhelmed by terror, just like these bugs. That it's an image of chaos. When you see all that motion happening at the same time, it's an image of chaos and disturbance. فَتَوَجَّهُ جِهَاتٍ شَتَّى أَوْ تَوَجَّهُ إِلَى مَنَازِلِهِمُ الْمُخْتَلِفَةِ سُعَادَ وَشِقَاء. What he's saying is that they're going to be going in every which direction and eventually end up in one of 2, the direction of happiness or the direction of calamity and sadness. وَالْمَبْثُوث مِنَ الْبَثْ وَهُوَ التَّفْرِيقِ. And mabthuth, the word mabthuth, which is an ism maf'ul, an objective noun, comes from the word bath, and it means division, distinction. So they'll be separated from one another. Even though they're together, they're also separated, which is an incredible thing. That on the Day of Judgment, we will be the biggest gathering ever of human beings. All generations of human beings are coming together at one point, and yet this will be the day you will feel the loneliest. You'll be the most alone. You'll be separated from everybody else. And this is described in further, more explicit detail. يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. Right, in Surah Al-Ma'arij, وَفَصِيلَتِهِ الَّتِي تُؤْوِيهِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ يُؤْوِيهِ. Right, so ثُمَّ يُنْجِيهِ. Right, he offers Allah everybody. He even says, separate me from my tribe in addition to my family. How about this? Why don't you take everyone on earth into hell? Let me go. He'll offer everybody else. Right? وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ يُنْجِيهِ. Give everybody else up, just let me survive. That's what he's concerned about. So that you become completely individualized on that day. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. And mountains will become on that day like al-ihn. Al-ihn in the Arabic language is wool of different textures. You know, you have, and when you make wool in Arabic, you know, and it's not like they didn't have cotton really. All they had to work with was wool. It's not a society that had flowing cotton. Cotton was an import really. So when Allah makes reference to this kind of carding, usually it's associated with cotton, but in Arab society, the first thing that came to their mind was wool. So ahin is used, wool. And then Allah uses the word al-manfush. The word nafasha in Arabic is to card and scrape into fine lines. You know, when you card and scrape the wool, it becomes fine fibers, and then they're brought together and intertwined. And al-ihn is used for wool that is of multiple textures. And when you're carding, you know what happens? These really fine fibers, they start flying up into the air. They become weightless, and there's this, you know, so you have to wear some sort of thing, because you're going to get like, the dust of it is going to go in your, you know, kind of like sawdust kind of thing. But this happens with wool a lot. So Allah is describing mountains as this weightless thing that when it's scraped, it's almost like it's flying in the air, and the different textures of it implied inside the word al-ihn benefits us in that mountains are of different colors, but they're going to be slammed together and scraped together to the point where first of all there's this different colored textured dust coming out of them, just like wool when they're scraped together, subhanAllah. And so we're
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with friends and family. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on the box at the top. If you want to see other videos, click on the box at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.